Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's long-range technical forecast video for Australia, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. This analysis is being provided for perspective only, and any decision made based upon this presentation is the sole responsibility of the person making the decision. Finally, please remember that all long-range weather forecasting is speculative by nature. Well, in the video I produced earlier this month, we talked first about what was going on in the United States, where we had a large squall line that damaged a lot of our corn and soybean crop. Well, this week our damage is coming from another source. You're looking here at a powerful tropical cyclone. We call them hurricanes when they're in the Gulf of Mexico or in the western Atlantic, and we get that name from the name Huracan, which is derived from the Mayan god on Cuba, Huracan, god of destruction. So that's where we get our names for these things. Well, this one has a proper name too. It's Laura, and Laura right now is on its way toward the Texas-Louisiana border with 145-mile-an-hour winds. So for perspective, that is 230 kph. So this thing is really going to cause a lot of problems for us. Just to give you an idea where it's going, we can see that the wind gusts might at times be approaching 200 miles an hour as it does come in here. And if you want to know what kind of crops we grow in this area, there's a lot of cotton, there's corn and soybeans, there's also rice in this part of Arkansas. Our main corn and soybean belt is located up into this area, so this is going to stay to the south of it. Although we are going to be getting quite a bit of heavy rainfall right in through this area through the next few days, upwards of maybe 10 inches of rainfall. So a lot is going to be coming in with this particular tropical cyclone. Just to keep you aware of a couple of things though, our western United States has been on fire. We've been burning. You may have seen in the news some of the horrific fires that are out there, but right through the heart of our main ag belt in the middle part of the country, we are dealing with some very, very dry conditions over the past about 3 weeks or so. Keeping in tune with this, I would like to just show you some other information, and I'm going to include Canada in on this as well. Parts of the Canadian prairies, so we do grow a lot of canola right in through this area. Also, there is spring wheat in here. There is corn and soybeans and other crops. It's been dry, so through parts of Saskatchewan into sections of Alberta. But again, you can see that a big part of the U.S. ag region here has been very, very dry. In fact, I should probably extend that a little bit farther to the east, that whole region into there. So just want to keep you up to speed on what's going on here in the United States. Our big issue in the coming 15 days is that we're going to heat up the west a whole lot more and bring in cooler shots of air. We're not yet to that time period where we start to worry about bringing in a frost through the Canadian prairies. That'll be end of September, then getting into October that we start to worry about frosts coming into the Canadian prairies and into the United States, but still a cooler pattern setting up in both of our major global models as we stretch this out all the way to 15 days. So our end of summer, beginning of fall is going to start off on a little bit of a cooler note. Take you over to Europe real quick. This is the latest European drought monitor. And last week I showed you, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, I showed you with NDVI some of the issues that were happening here. I just want to bring another point here to show you that we are still dealing with some pretty widespread drought conditions in parts of France, Germany, and getting into sections of Poland. Meanwhile, not really showing up much drought here in the Russian wheat belt over into Kazakhstan, nor are we seeing it here in Ukraine either. So just keep up to speed there. As we look forward in their forecast, they're really going to be split. Very active pattern here over the next 10 days. Warmer and drier in the south and east side of that image, and you can see the dryness here spreading from Ukraine through the Black Sea region, but a very active storm track coming through, for example, Great Britain, heading into certain sections of Europe. But do notice this pocket right in through here still forecast to be drier than normal over the next 15 days. Okay, one last place to keep you up to date internationally before we move into a couple of new resources here. This is the forecast for South America. Now, we grow a lot of corn and soybeans and cotton in this area. And we're right now, this map is showing you September, looking out over the month of September, how precipitation is going to compare to normal. So some of the same things that are influencing your weather, like La Nina and the MJO, are actually going to be slowing down precipitation in through this area here in the coming weeks. And that's going to delay the planting of a soybean crop. And again, this is going to be crucial because we are anticipating South America producing its largest soybean crop ever in this upcoming growing season. Okay, last couple of weeks, we have the week ending on the 19th here and the 26th here. Overall, I was impressed with the models. Remember, we were forecasting a wetter week 2 weeks ago right in through this area here, which we certainly saw also in Western Australia. And then we knew things were going to calm down a bit into last week, and certainly we can see that over there on the right. Let's go from there, though, into a couple of root zone soil moisture maps. Now, if you'd like to see this one, you can just go out to Google and type in NASA GRACE. This is a satellite-derived soil moisture mapping system. And overall, between that and what BOM shows, pretty good agreement. But the only place where we're not seeing good agreement is right in through here. You can see the differences there in the way that BOM is calculating it versus the way that the NASA satellite GRACE is. Still seeing some issues, of course, in parts of Western Australia where things have been quite dry at times in that particular area. Now, what I want to do is I want to jump out of this presentation for just a moment, and I want to show you something here. In the background here on the web, I've got a site for you. If you just type in cropmonitor.org, you'll eventually get here. And when you click on their mapping system, what it does is it allows you to select different types of crops. So you can see there's a limited selection, but you have some. I've just left this on winter wheat, and I want to show you just a cool thing that this does. So I came down here into New South Wales and clicked on it, and you get this really cool graphic that pops up that shows you NDVI, compared to the last 5 years, evaporative stress issues, soil moisture, your recent precipitation, and also your temperature patterns. So it's just kind of a cool way to kind of get a perspective on what's going on. And what's nice about this is you can go around the world. For example, I can come up here to France and take a look at things there. You can slide over to the United States. You can switch up your crop if you'd like to see instead corn. You can pick out a state like Iowa and also get its information. So just wanted to point you to another great resource. It's cropmonitor.org, just a great place to kind of get some global perspective on things. But let's get back into our presentation here and let's talk about this upcoming forecast. I'm going to actually show you 4 different models looking out over the next week. So the GFS, which is a model run in the United States, is on the left. That's total precipitation. Over there on the right, that is the European model. And what we do notice is that honestly, as we go through the next 7 days, because the storm track is shifting to the south, in fact, you can see it pretty clearly here, that we're going to be relatively dry. The most aggressive in terms of precipitation in South Australia is going to be the GFS, because if we compare the European to 2 other models, ready? This is ICON run out of Germany, and this is GEM run out of Canada. They look very much like the European model does over the next week, okay? So from there, let's take a look at what BOM is forecasting, and they've got a very similar forecast overall to what the Europeans, the Germans, and the Canadians are looking at here in terms of your precipitation through the next week. So feel free to pause it or go back through and look at those maps in a bit more detail. What I would like to do, though, is just kind of give you a broader perspective on your next 10 days. You see with that more southerly storm track, as you can see with the weather anomalies here, we are going to be on the drier side of things progressing through the next 10 days, but I don't think that that lasts. Let me show you at least what we've got here in the near term. So we're going to go right to the European model, and we're going to play this out and just see how things change here over the next 7 or 8 days before we look at week 2. So as we work our way through the day on Thursday, getting into Friday, higher atmospheric pressure occupies much of the eastern half of Australia, including New South Wales, Victoria, and through this area. And the next system, see this little pressure trough in through here, along which we have our next front, it really tries to curl up nicely to the south, but doesn't bring in the precipitation as we work our way into Saturday, now into the day on Sunday, and eventually into Monday. So maybe just as I rock back and forth, maybe some scattered showers before higher pressure builds in and around Adelaide and then getting down into Victoria. So again, this is Saturday getting into Sunday. Then as we start next week, a large area of higher atmospheric pressure is in place. And like we just saw, the next storm system is going to continue to stay on that more southerly track. So possibly bringing in some scattered showers next Monday into Tuesday here into Western Australia, but not really too much. And you can see that it winds up tightly here, but it's to the south. So as we work our way to next Wednesday, getting into Thursday and Friday, the current forecast is to keep that system pretty well to the south, and as a result, only coastal showers at that point are showing up as we work our way out through the next really 8 or 9 days here. So let's just go ahead and take a look now at what week 2 is holding as well. So this would basically take us all the way out to the 10th of September. And in general, we're not seeing any strong signals up to this point. So getting through the first week of September and partly into the second week, seeing wetter than average conditions. We're just not. Pretty close to normal as we kind of see forecast here by the European model. If anything, there's a slight dry bias in this area with possibly wetter conditions right along the southwestern side of West Australia near Perth, and then getting right here along the coast into this area. But this is not a strong signal that we're going to be overly dry working our way into week 2. So what about those temperatures? Well, let's animate the next week here. So this is starting off here on Thursday. You can see the much above average temperatures in Western Australia. And as we play this forward, forward, what we're going to see is as that system comes on, so this is Friday, getting into now Saturday and Sunday. Remember, the first system is coming here into Western Australia. You can see the main frontal boundary right in through there, and that's going to introduce some near average to maybe even at times cooler than average weather over the weekend. So here we go through Saturday into Sunday, and now working our way into Monday. So that's the first system that comes rolling through here, bringing in a cool down of those temperatures. But notice with the high pressure that comes in behind it, we warm right back up here pretty quickly. So how long does that last? Well, the next system, as you saw, comes in next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it is also, let me just step you back there, trying to cool off here along the southern coast of Australia as we look out into that time period with some cooler weather hanging on here next Monday and Tuesday. From there, I'd like to just step this out and show you the 5 to 10 day pattern here from the European. Kind of just cut the continent in half, keep the northern half warm, and we'll keep the southern half near average with a slight cool bias over here in parts of Victoria, New South Wales. But then as we get out here into the day 10 through 15, we do notice the warmer bias in the western half of the continent, really focused in there on South Australia, and also Western Australia. So from there, let's now get into what I really want to dig into, which is a longer range. The MJO. Now, I got asked last time about a good explainer of this, and I'm going to do that for you. One of my colleagues, Eric Webb, this is his work, put together this idea of understanding this phase diagram, where the MJO is and what the heck it means. So whenever we're in specific phases, like phase 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8, you look at the map up here, and what we understand is where air is rising versus where air is sinking. So phase 1, which we're in right now, tends to produce a lot of sinking air in and around Australia up toward Indonesia. As I play this forward, let's pause it so we can just kind of take a look at each of these phases. Phase 2, where we're headed here, continues to push our storm track south and keep things drier. The wetter phases for us begin in phase 3 when the MJO moves into the Indian Ocean, and then eventually into phase 4, 5, and 6. Those are our wetter phases, really phases 4 and 5 as I rock back and forth here. That's the best upper level support in this area. Now what's the MJO doing? It's going to come out of phase 1 and 2, then head into this middle circle here, which is what we call the null phase, which means we're not seeing these strong deviations from normal. But as we progress forward, we see that our driest phases tend to be phase 7, 8, and 1. And that's really where we just went through here over the last week or so. We came out of a good phase here in 5 and 6 when we were talking a couple weeks ago, and then over into the drier phases 8, 1, and 2, which is why we see the drier forecast in the near term. It's a part of that story. The other part of that story comes in from what's going on with La Nina. Now we notice that through the 10th of September, see the blues here? That represents in this area stronger trade winds, okay? This is part of the reason why the MJO is going to just cave back into the null space, because the flow with La Nina is taking over. So looking at that, let's now see what we've got. This is an area that I made a bit of a mistake with in my forecast over the last few weeks. I thought that we would not see such good cooling in this area, but we did. And that particular area is now sitting at 0.6 degrees Celsius below average, which actually means, given that we have the stronger trade winds, we do have a weak La Nina on our hands. So thinking about the forecast of this over the coming months, BOM, which is an agreement here with almost every other major modeling center, is going to keep this La Nina down here, just barely on the weak side of things. And if that's the case, that's really going to help dictate what we're going to be getting over the next 2 to 3 months. What about the Indian Ocean dipole? Because certainly that's a part of it as well. Look at the ocean temperatures, warmer here, cooler over by Africa. Well, we see that the IOD is forecast to stay somewhere in the neutral zone, but maybe increasing slightly, but still in the neutral area. Through the month of September, maintaining its negative bias though. So keep that in mind as we progress forward. So what does this mean? Well, I'm going to show you week 3 in the forecast and week 4. So what are the time periods? This would be September the 7th through the 14th on the top. We favor warmer west, cooler east. And overall, there's not a strong precipitation bias as we look out again to that time period of the 7th through the 14th. What about as we go out here now from the 14th to the 21st? That's the maps on the bottom. Overall, the models are favoring above average temperatures, possibly wetter than normal in through these particular regions as we go forward. And that would be, conducive to what we typically get with a developing La Nina. So what does the BOM say here? Well, September and October, they're giving a better chance than average here of being above median on rainfall. You can see in both months, with October favoring drier conditions in Western Australia. Is that reflected in other modeling centers? Well, let's at least look out over the month of September 1st. You see, this is the forecast from September 1 through September 30th, and we're looking here at the European model's forecast for precipitation anomalies. And this is a favorable forecast for most crops. Where this could get in the way is with hay cutting. This could get in the way with some crops that we need to have a bit of a dry down for harvest, but overall it's favoring wetter than average conditions as we progress through the month of September. From there, the last thing I want to finish up with is just a different view, because 2 weeks ago I showed you the brand new European data, which is still the same. It won't be updated until the 5th of September, so my next video will feature that. But in between the last time and this one, we got an update here from the IRI multi-model group out of Columbia University. What they are showing here is September, October, November precipitation anomalies. And we can actually see that they're favoring that La Nina developing and the near average to wetter than average conditions inside the area that I highlighted there. So we're getting some consistency longer term, and maybe this La Nina has a little bit more life in it than I thought. We're going to watch it carefully, and I'll look forward to reporting back to you in a couple of weeks, all right? Have a good rest of this week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.